Hello and welcome to first ever Open Strategy Hour. I'm Leaping. This is me figuring it out as we go. I'm gonna hope my intention plan at this stage is to have kind of a open strategy hour once a week, whatever that ends up landing as, and that's what we're trying to today. And so what that looks like is for those that attend live and want to ask a question, we can chat through some strategies, ideas, kind of mindset, just different shifts, discovery, that kind of thing on this at this time, and how it takes however long it takes. I'll plan to do these calls, probably be on here for about 20-ish minutes. If you're catching this as a replay, you'll get to discover how long we actually hung out and did this. And then if by chance no one has questions or whatnot, what I plan to do is actually go through when people join the group, they share what they're struggling with, their biggest struggle at this time. So I actually log all that information. So I actually log the struggle and then log my solution based on how I see the world, what I've discovered, how I see other people work through it, kind of different strategies and ideas. And so I'll plan to tackle those if by chance no one's here. So either way, I have to make this massive value, just discovery, conversation. And I hope that you find yourself in each of the different components and stories. And that if you're watching this later, that you're able to get something of value. For those that attend live, I hope this can be of massive, massive value. And actually, when I joined in here, Lucy was actually already in the Facebook or in the Zoom call, and we chatted a little bit. I'm gonna bring her here on screen and just do a quick introduction. She's actually in the UK, so it's noon here, West Coast Pacific Standard Time. She's 8 o'clock, just put the kid down to bed, and she's been a business owner since 2016 and navigating the world of going back to work at an employer. And I totally get that in that world of kind of I almost want to think like I don't know, it can just be a triggering effect of like, I used to do this and now I'm going back to it. And how do I make this work for me? And just how much knowing and understanding the brain that we have completely shifts the workplace environment. So I'm going to bring Lucy on. Hopefully I articulated that clearly, and we'll get her here. And there we go. Awesome. Did I capture it pretty closely?
Hi. Thanks for having me. It's really nice to be able to chat with you today.
Yes. Anything I missed or left out that you would have added to that?
Not much. I would say that obviously, I think one of the biggest thing is that I've just recently, only this summer, that I've discovered I had ADHD. And before that, it was an absolute no way I was ever going to go back to being an employee because of the horrible experiences that I had. But now that I understand that I have ADHD and how it manifests and what it affects, and I'm still learning really early in my journey, I'm much more at ease at going back as an employee. But also I'm trying to figure out what that's going to mean, because obviously I'm going to know more about myself and be able probably to losing my words, probably be able to manage better relationship at work and, these kind of things. And knowing that, I'm probably overthinking when I feel people are rejecting me, they probably aren't, so that kind of things. But long story short, even though it's not short, it's trying to figure out how can I make the best, is there anything that you think someone who just recently discovered they've got ADHD, how can they make that work for them in re-entering the workforce? And also, I've been my own boss as well. So it's also a different kind of way of working. And I've been a mom for 2 years now. So, there's a bit of a gap. So I'll shut up now.
You're perfect. And I totally get your world and we all get it. So we're with you there. And what I like to say is yes, you just got diagnosed and you've had that brain your entire life. So it's really just learning the language, because it's not like you don't already know how you work. It's just not actually knowing what actually is going on behind the scenes, if that makes sense or connects.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
And then with that, a component that comes up is at this stage, do you know, like, do you have a vision, or you're headed into a vision of like, I want to work for this type of employer or this environment, or how clear are you on where you want to head for employment?
Um, at the minute, I know what kind of role I want, and I know what kind of company I don't want to work for. As per company I want to work for, there's an ideal, but I know it can be difficult to reach.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
that's where I am.
Yeah, yeah. And does it relate at all by what you chance did, like independent when you did like work for yourself? Does it relate?
Yeah, 100%. So what I used to do is business brand and marketing strategy.
Okay.
And with that in mind, I'm going to try and find like a marketing manager role, kind of role.
Mm-hmm.
Something where I do have some responsibility and I don't have someone to micromanage me, where I can manage a team, or even just one person or a small team, or
Yeah.
even do everything on my own, but something where I do have responsibilities, because when I don't have responsibilities and I'm under the direction of someone else, first of all, I've many times been in roles where I was more qualified than my manager, which is like a huge pain. But yeah, I guess I don't know if it's relating to ADHD or not, but I do feel that need of being in charge of what I'm doing, and I know how well I can do my job when I'm in charge of it. So,
Yes, yes. Freedom and autonomy is so, so, so needed for us to thrive. And that is kind of, I think, that trigger experience we can sometimes have thinking about going back to work and being like, I'm going to have standard expectations and ideals, and be confined, and like all of this emotion that just shows up of like, no. And I really hear you know what you want. So you're kind of advocating and seeing that. Something I mentioned on some working through people with this before is the concept of knowing clearly the values you want. One thing I hear for you is just freedom. I also hear responsibility. Those are words you've used. And so having it in a way of like, okay, this is what I'm looking for. Because it's so, so easy to be like, I know what I don't want, which, okay, look at like what you don't want. And then what's the flip side of that? I don't want to be controlled. So I actually want freedom. I don't want to be micromanaged. So I actually want someone who values me. So being able to just flip the script on what you're looking for, because what will help in that case is when you go into the employer, you actually get to interview them too. Like, yes, you're getting interviewed and like they get to judge you, but you also get to say, is this truly for me? And being able to really look through that lens of like, oh no, or not, oh no, but oh yes, they were showing that they value me. Oh, they trust me. You can see those different ways. And what I'll also say is how you do anything is how you do everything. So even through the process of applying for a job, you get to experience how they do things. Are they quick with communication? Do they give you space? Like, how do they do things so that you can be like, oh, okay, that's probably going to be similar to what they might do here. And I just kind of have that like intention with all the communication. And I just want to advocate for that you truly are, like you said, you know more than some people you've worked for. So just like trusting the like brilliancy that you have, which I actually heard recently in a survey I called, because I have this concept that I believe people with ADHD are like brilliant badasses, but we live like such hot mess express lives that we have a hard time believing it. And this person was from the UK and they're like, I would never tell myself I was a brilliant badass because we just don't use those words over here. We don't like compliment. I don't know if that's true or not. So I just didn't know if that's.
Yeah, that's yeah, people like the best you can get for, so in the US you probably say, oh my god, that's awesome, like you did such an awesome job, or brilliant job. The UK equivalent probably going to be, that's not bad.
That's not bad.
That's like probably the utmost compliment you can get from a British person. That's not bad.
Yes. So I hear cognitive dissonance comes across if I'm like, you're brilliant. You're like, but yes, either way, just knowing that you truly are, and you have that experience of doing it yourself. And I really see that sometimes when we have space, we can kind of float like we're in space, which doesn't actually produce the kind of things, results we want. And so that responsibility can be enough of a guardrail to be like, okay, actually creating something, I'm actually getting evidence, I'm actually having proof that I know what I'm doing. And sometimes that working for self world, when you don't have the feedback, can truly be kind of that a limitation and a challenge for us.
And it's funny you mentioned that, because I think one of the things that I'm struggling at the moment in terms of building my self-confidence with looking and applying for jobs is that I'm worrying about people thinking, well, she's done that, you know, she says she's a strategist, but she's only done that, you know, for herself. So how do we know she can actually do that? Because no one actually evaluated that within a company before, you
Mm.
know? And I'm like, well, I do have dozens of client testimonial, if that helps, but still, you know, still I'm like, yeah, technically I've only done that under my own way of working and applying strategy and doing things. And but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So kind of some concept shift to play around with that is, I believe, especially when you come up with ADHD, there's a picture that, or a TikTok that I saw that was like the difference between ADHD and those with not. So those with not takes a puzzle piece and puts the puzzle piece where it's meant to be. And like where ADHD, we can see like the dynamics and we can see like how we're building and have like the different, like we just don't do A to B and just like don't ask questions. We're like, why does this go here? And like there's so much more. So if you actually have done it yourself in your own world, there's a component where you've gone in different directions that a normal, I've been employed and done marketing my whole life, haven't necessarily gone, because they just did what was told of them. And you're like
Mm,
literally frontiering and like pioneering your own business. So you've discovered
mm.
a lot more that maybe not the average person has.
And I just don't know if because I guess there's such not everyone knows about ADHD. Like myself, the first one, I had no idea what ADHD was before I ever come around it.
Mhm.
Um, so, but at the same time, when I look at it and what you just described, I'm like, ADHD is most likely the reason why I'm so good at my job. And
Mhm.
and I've even thought like to when I today I read a job description and I was like, well, having ADHD helped me with this and this and this and this and that. I was like, well, maybe I should apply as someone with ADHD and just say, well, you know what, I have ADHD, and because of that, I've got all of these superpowers that allows me to do this and this and this and this and that 10 times
Yes.
better than everybody else.
Yes, 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 hands down, hands down. And that's what I hope one day that the world will see and value and like actually believe that. And there's still so much stigma because it is a quote unquote mental disorder, which, yes, that is a thing. And I also see we only can do what we're authentically interested in. So if we're actually authentically interested in something, that superpower shows up. And you're like, yeah, I look at me, like you have all the evidence. And so being able to kind of navigate that conversation, um, leading with it just depends on the environment. You never know. And you can also say the language behind it of like, I am passionate about this. Like, I believe my purpose is this. Like, I'm driven by this. You can see more clearly like who you are and what you want in the world. And that's words that people want to hear when they're looking for someone to hire. Like, who
Mm.
doesn't want to hire someone who has a drive towards whatever your superpower is in a way?
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
So I've had one interview that was a couple of months ago when I didn't know yet about ADHD. And one thing that I really struggled with, and I think now it kind of makes sense why I did struggle with this, but I'm not too sure how I can come around this um, other than absolutely over preparing. And even if I'm over preparing, it might be hard. But I had an interview and I was like, I felt like I did really well, and then I actually blew it.
Mm.
But what happened is that they kept, and apparently that's like an interview style that they're doing quite a lot over here. I don't know about the US, but they would always ask questions where they ask you to describe specifically, you know, a um, tell me a time where you did that or you used that skill and what happened and what context, and you have to describe that from a previous experience. And I blank every time. I know exactly how I would do this. You know, I can answer, this is how I would deal with that situation, but I cannot give you an answer of when was a time, like when I was 5 years earlier and I don't know, did that. And
No,
like,
it's
how do people do that? To me, it's like, it's so conceptual for me. It's something I really can't comprehend. And it seems to be like a normal thing because apparently they do that in every interviews. But yeah.
yeah, 100%. And there's a world there. So there's a world here. It's the same experience of when you get the question of how was your week? And you're like, I don't even know what happened last week. There's not this way to like connect. Something that's worked for me, I don't know if it's universal, is finding ways to get the question into like a one dimension. And I don't know how to do that in an interview. Like I don't per se do that. One thing that I do find that's helpful is like acknowledging their question to buy me some time. Like, oh, that's a great question. And almost like rewording the question back to be like, okay, like, and then this is me verbally processing. So obviously clean it up if it fits. And something like, okay, when did I do this? Like, and then being able to answer the one dimension where it's like, okay, you're interested in a time when I like trying to buy a little time to try to find somewhere where you can connect to that detail compared to the whole world. Because I think once you get connected to like, once you get connected to what you actually, where you actually were, then you have a picture to speak from. And then I think it will flow. It's just getting physically put into that space, which is like a one-dimensional question, which is not what they're asking. They're asking a very large, not one-dimensional question. I don't know if that's communicating.
Yeah, like when they're asking that question, what I feel is like I've got that one specific question, and then my mind is trying to browse a library of thousands of books and trying to find the book that has the sentence that is exactly written the way they are asking that question, you know. And I'm like, there's too many books to look at and too many pages, and I'm dyslexic.
And when you say books, are you talking literally like an actual book you've read, you're looking for an answer compared to a story in your life?
Sorry?
Are you looking for like an actual book you've read to have the answer, or a situation in your
what
life?
I meant is like it's like my memory.
Yes.
It's like my memory is a library. It's like
Yep,
yeah,
100%.
it's like
Okay, I'm tracking. Yeah. And so, yeah, I'm trying to think how to kind of, because really what you're looking to is ground yourself in a situation and being able to go there. And so one thing, again, that I can sometimes help, and again, I don't know how to do it in an interview setting because the pressure's on, which is a whole other context, but being able to say, do I actually know a time when I did this? And being able to get to a yes or no first gets you to then open the door for it to be there, because you're almost like trying to answer a question before you know. And I'll find like I'm trying to think of an example that I use in a very basic way of like how was your week? And I'm like, do I know how my week is? Oh yes, I know how my week is, and that's because of this. Like it's like almost like the because I don't know if you've ever seen that before, where someone says something and then it jogs something else and then jogs something else. You just have to get started, which that yes or no can sometimes start. Again, trying it on in an interview. Yeah, that could be just know that it makes sense, I guess, and trust that to like take the pressure off will help open the door in a way too.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much.
But that's going to be something I'm going to be in inquiry a lot over, because I also feel I'll probably feel it too as I learn more of these, like responding to live questions, like they're kind of like interview questions, and I'm like, what shows up?
I wonder, I mean, I will I'm probably going to ask for, you know, I'm going to work with recruiters as well and ask them, you know, is there any way I can have an interview that's a little bit accommodated, like not all of the questions are like that, because otherwise it's going to be really tough.
Which, do you recall some of the questions they asked?
Sorry?
Do you recall some of the questions they asked?
Honestly, no.
Because the one thought is, do you recall either your answer you gave, or could you get like a database of like, these are my brilliant badass stories, and having them be like,
well, that's what that's what I did. Like, that's what I did for that particular interview. I did prepare some stuff according to what I thought they might ask, and then I tried to pick up from it, you know, to pick out of it. But even though that was really hard, but why was I saying that? Because
you're good.
Typical.
You're good. And it's the evening for you. That's a whole other limitation on the brain.
Yeah.
Visual shows up too. I don't know if there's a way, I don't know how much you journal or do stuff. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Because I think what's difficult with this question is that, so when you remember a story of something that happened, and then you can label it, you know, say, so that was organizing, you know, but then when someone asking you, can you recall a day you organized? And you're like, I don't know if I ever organized, you know, like, but you did. but it's just that experience wasn't necessarily labeled as organizing, you know.
And
And so that,
organizing is a very complex word because it doesn't actually mean anything. I personally like to say organizing is making sense, because organizing, like, what is organizing? That means it's the word doesn't mean anything to me, but it's actually like making sense of something is organizing. And what shows up there is the question of like being able to internally dialogue of like, what is their intention here? What do they want? And then being able to go through that. But again, sometimes that pressure in an interview, you're in the hot seat, which pressure in us, yeah, like you said, asking for different, the preparation kind of thing. And the thought too was visually, I don't know if you do any journaling or stuff. Sometimes it's like taking a picture. There's actually, Gia Goodrich had an idea of creating like a ribbon drawer where you collect all your kind of like your badass moments and like have a log of it, because we don't do the best with memory past either. So you're actually like trying to depend on something you don't even have a memory for. So what does it look like to sit down and say, okay, as I go for this job, how do I look back at my last X amount of years and create a journal of like all my badass moments and all my testimonials of self?
Definitely. And that reminds me, I'm just throwing it there because I'm pretty sure it can help anybody else as well that will listen to this. But when I was dealing with a very bad anxiety when I used to be an employee and I was working with a therapist at the time, one thing that I like to do, and that made, what you just said made me think of that. I used to, when I was in a good moment, you know, in a moment where I feel good, I feel confident about myself, you know, I'm not anxious or anything. I would write down in my notes and my phone, like a note to myself, just like for when I'm going to be anxious, and I'm just saying, you're a badass. You did this, you did that, you went through that, and you made it, and you kicked ass and did that and this and that. And you're safe and you're okay and blah blah blah. And I think that's like a brilliant thing to do. Like, I encourage anyone to do that, because whenever you have a moment where you feel like I'm the worst person in this world and I can't do anything, and then you can read that and you know it's true because you can trust yourself. You're like, no, I wrote that when I was in a good moment, so that means that's true. No one's lying to me.
And has so much more power than like someone else trying to tell you that you shouldn't feel this way or whatever. So you actually believe yourself. Someone did this on TikTok. I saw too. She was pregnant, getting ready to give birth, and she had recorded a message to herself for when she was like ready to give birth. And she's like, "You're a badass. You can do this." Like all this like positive stuff. And so I love that idea of recording the like what your experience is on the high, so you can really listen to that in the low. And I really hear that you probably have a lot of documentation, sometimes even emails or pictures jog my memory. And again, locking something in with a picture does better for us, especially if you're having to recall, because even if you wrote a bunch of words, it could be hard to recall it in pressure. But if you're like, oh, I see this picture or I see this symbol, and then everything else shows up because it's there, it's just to get the ball started, and then you can't stop once we're started. It's a whole nother problem once you get started.
Yeah. Oh, don't get me started.
Exactly.
Yeah, 100%. I really want to hear the things you were going to talk about as well, the struggles. Because you said maybe you will talk about some of the answers people did to your.
Yeah. No, if you feel like you are complete and you feel like you've got some stuff to run with and play with, I'll just first off, thank you for showing up and being here and just dancing in this.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, being willing to, just all the love, all the thanks. And you just have to keep me posted on the job stuff because I'm in your corner. I'd love to hear how it goes. And I just see too, like you believing what you deserve in a way will help you see those jobs too. And how much, if you really truly, if we only do what we're authentically interested in, having those big dreams so that you land in the places where you want to be, where it's so easy to be like, oh, I don't deserve it, and then maybe end up where we're not wanting to. So just fully, I just like all the encouragement to fully believe what you want, because you're brilliant. You're not doing so bad over there in the UK or whatever you all say. AKA, you're a brilliant badass. Thank you for being here.
No, thank you. You too. Thank you.
I'll hop you off and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, don't worry.
All right. How fun was that? This is actually, I'm so glad she shared this too, because this is actually had a strategy call this week with someone doing the similar thing, and was like wanting to be sure she landed in the right spot for the next job. And this concept of writing down your values and being super clear on what they are really can make a difference for what you see. And the lens you look out into the world, because it's, you get to interview too. You are an asset. You are worth something. You have ADHD. So I personally believe that you got a lot of stuff you have a lot to add. And yes, there's some components of ADHD that are tricky, but those are all things you can discover and work around when you have the right environment. So it's environment based. So I'm going to go to my notes here because I had some for people that shared the struggles that they have with ADHD when they join the Facebook group. Guess what? I have 1,000 tabs open. Don't be surprised. I know you do too. If you don't, tell me your secret because I haven't learned that one yet. I want to know the strategy to not have 5,000 tabs open. Okay, found it. Let's go here. We have, I'm going to go first, or most recent joined. I'm not going to share last names because I don't want to do that. But I want to say, so this was person joined today. Marianne, she joined because she enjoyed my TikTok and wanted more. And hers was getting out of the holding pattern that seems to be my life right now. And that she actually wants to be productive again every single day. First, what shows up? I don't like leading with strategies like try this app or do this thing. And this is what I've been discovering for myself in this past week that's made a massive difference for me, is the app, The Fabulous. I have their free 30 days when you sign up, which I signed up for the free week, and they're like, tell you all the time, you have free passes to send for 30 days. So I'm never one to be like, you should do this. And I want to say, like, if you're looking to gain, you had said, actually be productive again every single day. I say the Fabulous app because they are behavioral based, behavioral science based. They don't lead that they're for ADHD. And so far, I think 4 or 5 people have tried it for 30 days, maybe more. I can't remember how many people I sent it to. And there's so many people in that have ADHD, and it is built in a brilliant way that like matches what we need to have this like empowerment. And so I've been doing it for a week now, and I literally feel like the most consistent, powerful, like, oh my gosh, I can do this. And because I've been doing it for a week, they have the first 3 steps or things, and you get to pick your journey. I won't go into too many details, but I'm going to say like right now I'm like, oh, this is like kind of feels like a lot to manage, but I also feel good. And they're like, we're not adding anything more, like become a brilliant badass at this. And they have like coaching 3 times a day. That's like a little audio. It's like a minute long. Like it has been a voice in my corner to create consistency that, to be honest, it's a dream of mine that I had of like, if I could build something to help people with ADHD and wellness and like habits of living in life, like I've always had this dream of creating something. I found this app and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is it. And I don't have to create anything and it already exists. So I don't know if that fits. If it does, I want to encourage you to reach out to me for that. I'll probably try to find you here that I let you know I'm doing this in case you didn't see it, to give it a try. And if anyone sees this too, reach out to me. I keep saying free 30 days that I can send to people, and I have 5 of them, and I keep sending it and they keep showing up. So reach out if you're interested, to really give you like, I believe it's built for ADHD brains, but I don't think they lead that way. So I'm going to start there. Number 1, that. And if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you, but at least try to see, because I can't get over how good I feel using it. It's so simple, so easy, so fun, so aligned with who I am and what I want in the world. So that's first. Okay. So the question is that I have, or the way I answered it, was the concept of how do we move? What drives us? And the whole concept of like, I don't know what to do makes a ton of sense. And I would say we don't know what we want if we don't know what to do. Because if we know what we want, then we can start seeing what we're hitting up against and we can start impacting it. So if we don't know what we want, we're kind of left in like the space of not knowing, which is often a not very good experience. And so, or it's not one that we really enjoy, I should say. So it's like, what do I actually want? And then being able to say, okay, what is the steps? What is like, I like to say, what do you want, and what lives in your I can do that bucket, and what lives in your I can't do that bucket? And then if it lives in your I can't do that bucket, it's not that you can't do it forever. It's just discovering how to move that into your I can do that bucket. And I'm going to use an example that I discovered this morning that is kind of maybe not completely aligned, but I think it might inspire some ideas. So with the Fabulous app I've been using, it has you start with drinking water first thing when you wake up. So what do you think of when you do that? You would say, I'd fill my water bottle and I put it by my bed and I drink it first thing when I wake up. It worked the first couple of days because I was novelty. We're at a week now and I keep forgetting. I forgot the last 3 days. And I'm frustrated because I'm like, why can't I do this? Again, it's in my I can do that bucket. not a problem. So how do I shift that into my I can do that bucket? I did this today where I said, okay, if I can't seem to remember it when it's on my nightstand, it's not being recalled, which actually kind of been linguistically shifting habits to mean habits to me just means that it's like habits to me means it's something I want to do and I remember to do it. Because I want to drink water, I don't remember. Or I don't remember and I want, is that the same thing? I don't know. Either way, or if I don't want to and I remember, I'm not going to do it either way. So a habit is being able to want to do it and remember to do it the frequency that you want to do. So that has been a struggle. And I see physically, like what actually happens, like on the core of my life is that I wake up and I have a Labrador that sleeps on my bed and he's usually waking me up. He'll actually I will lay in bed with my phone like this and he will literally put his head over my phone and cover it. And I'm just like, really? Really, dog? I want to be on my phone a little bit more. He doesn't like me to do that. So the second he hears the click, he's off the bed, super loud. And we live, our basement is a rental. And so we have someone down below and I'm just like, you're so loud. So I'm like, from bed, take care of the dog, get him out of the room and out into the garage because he's so just kind of buck wild. So I'm not going to remember my water. It's not going to come to mind. Now, what I do is every morning, so this is coming back to what do I do every day? What already lives in my I can do that bucket and what is my normal? What is already normal for me? What's normal for me is to walk out, feed the dogs, go into the bathroom that's next door. I'm sure you figure it out. That is actually a place where my water bottle could live. I could fill it up at night, put it in that room in the evening or by the back door or somewhere in that space where I know my normal is going to go there. And then I can pick it up because what's been working is just drinking my water while I let the dogs go outside and do the little routine. I have my water in my hand. I don't get to set it down until I finish it. And I like my water bottle, which is another thing. Well, it's have things that you enjoy. So this is a little bit of an extent or an extrapolation on something that may not apply for you per se to give you the direct answer. I just want to help you see the strategy and an example of behind the scenes of what it works to do the thing, to get moving and to really discover what you want. Because the clearer the picture of what you want, the more likely you are to move. And the other piece is it doesn't mean that you will. It just means that you're most likely to see a breakdown and the ability to shift seeing breakdowns from a place of I'm a problem, I'm broken, I can't figure this out, to I have a breakdown, I can't figure this out. Well, it's because it lives in my I can do that bucket. I can't do that bucket. How do I move into my I can do that bucket? And how do I see it so I'm actually recalling it and not depending on myself? Another thing is trust yourself to not trust yourself. I am not going to remember. So what strategies can I implement so that I actually do remember, whether it be creating novelty or noise, or I just made that up, novelty and noise. It's kind of funny. Noise is an alarm on your phone. That just created that, probably created TikTok off that. So all that to say, what do you do from there? So the other piece is collecting proof that what you want is possible. So what does it look like to start and create the step and do that step till you believe that you can do it? And that, and again, it's building habits, which I just don't like using those words because it's just not authentic to what it actually is happening. And our brains don't easily get the whole picture at the first second. We just instantly understand A to B and we don't have to think about it. So how do you get this to where you're not trusting your brain to do what you want? And that's what I believe habits are, is where I'm not trusting my brain to do this. It just is my normal. Habits are my normal. It's not building habits. It's shifting what's normal so that it has it in alignment with what I want. So with that, I think I'm going to end it with that. I hope that's of value. I think that could probably serve every single human I think it can serve every single human. And I'll add this too to saying this with ADHD. If you fit in the bucket of I've had this my entire life, I don't know if I have it or I don't have it, wherever you find yourself at the end of the day, you raise your hand, send me a chat, Lucille, if you have a question, because I'm chatting and I'll see it. Sorry. So with that, I'm going to get back to where I was at. I saw a little prompt. Not that that's a bad thing. I just, I'm losing it here. ADHD. At the end of the day, it's doing what you authentically want to do. So if you have it or don't, Do you want to do what you authentically want to do? Do you want to live a life that's fully authentic and fully in alignment with what you authentically want? If so, then anything that fits in that ADHD bucket is going to serve you, because that's what I believe ADHD is. I'm found everything foundationally for me is I always can do what I'm authentically interested in. So if I focus on what I always can do, like if I'm authentically interested and I always can do that, then like that's the world of being unstoppable with ADHD. And so I want to discover what I'm actually authentically interested in. Sometimes that's not doing something, that's actually being authentic and real life, whole life, why I've created this. So whether you're on the fence of a diagnosis or whether you know it and you have it, and then people are like, that's me too. Well, those without ADHD can do what's important. They don't have to be authentically interested to do something. So that's fine. Great. I'm glad that's how you're able to go through life. I'm glad you're able to pay the car bill because you think it's important. I don't have that. I don't have that at all. I pay the car bill because I'm afraid of losing my car. Like that's what drives me. ADHD people or non-ADHD can just be driven by what's important. So great. If you are not driven by what's important, whether you have ADHD or not diagnosed or whatever the answer is, you'll be served by living a fully authentic life, doing what you want in a way that works for you, not even having to worry about the important, because you're able to understand, comprehend, and be connected to why it's there. So there's a whole world I could go into, but that's kind of foundational. I want to read your question. I appreciate you sending this. Lucy, you said, I think as ADHD peeps, we need to forget that we think, or what we think normal way of doing things. Yes, because that normal is not our normal, and we are 100% allowed to create our normal way of doing things. Yes, 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 yes. Oh, so good. And I want to add, like, I amplify that 100 times over, because I will say, like, habits are my normal. And what works for me is what I want normal to be. Didn't even mean to rhyme. I discover so much of my life is like this weird lyrical linguistic world. It's wild to me. Anyways, I'm gonna have to go back and record that because I don't feel like I can even say that again, or go back and listen to it. So it's what is default mode to you, and how do you shift that? And that's how I define normal. Normal can be a very triggering thing because it can be so driven by what you should be. Actually, I created this. This is actually beautifully. Thank you again, Lucy, for sending this, because this is beautiful. I created this as a TikTok yesterday, and just really a place of, if you struggle with perfectionism or procrastination, what shows up is you're trying to do the best, the normal, the way it's supposed to be, should be. What's important, again, does not drive us. So how do you just give that up? Like, I don't care about that. That's fine. I'm letting that go. What does it look like to do your best, your normal, the way you do life, and discover what that is? Because I believe there's a part of it, I'm going to try to keep this short. There's a part of this that we don't know who we are. So we do this. We do the world of what I should do because we actually don't know how to function. We don't know how to trust ourselves. We don't know what works for us. We've never had the space to do that. We've just, from the second we did anything in probably school is probably the biggest kick in, or maybe younger, depending on your way of growing up, where you're like, you're a problem, you're wrong, I got to get the data correct. So because I quote this a lot, is that those with ADHD receive 10-20,000 more negative messages than those without ADHD from a younger age, because we are always hitting up against these standard expectations, ideals world. So we just then be subconsciously at such a level believe that we're bad, broken, wrong. We also are titled when you get diagnosed that you have a disorder. So you have to be bad, broken, and wrong if you have a disorder. So that's I got to figure out how to do it over here. I got to be this other answer. It's no, you actually aren't bad or broken or wrong. You just only can do what you're authentically interested in. And so what are you actually authentically interested in? And there's a whole deep story there that I'm not going to have time to go into today, but it comes down to, do you actually believe at your core that you are good? Do you actually believe that you have good intentions, goodness inside of you? And that's a philosophical question that only you can do the work to answer. And I will say, for me, the biggest shift in my life, the biggest change is to be able to get connected back to the the reality that I am not broken and that I'm not wrong. I just haven't discovered how to do life for me yet. I haven't discovered what I want yet. I haven't discovered my normal. I haven't discovered me in a way, the true me. When I take the mask off and I quit trying to live this like whatever is over here, take the mask off and discover me. It's a messy journey. It can be a triggering journey. It can be a hard journey, but the more you're able to step into that, the more you're able to collect proof, the more you're able to have support of people like, no, keep going. You are like, what's in you is good. Trusting that is a journey that you get momentum. You get to build a life that gives you the positive feedback that's so much more productive than this, whatever this is. And then this one more thing, or that Lucy said over here, that's what I'm reading over here. One of the things that I told myself when I learned I had ADHD was, I'm not crazy. I'm just normal for someone with ADHD. Phew. Yes, exactly. And I have actually said this in the call that I had with the person who was working through the job thing too. People will be like, oh, I have ADHD. I need these accommodations. And I actually was able to get connected with her on this is like, okay, think of the thing. Thank you, Lucy. Think of the thing you've asked or needed an accommodation for at your job. And hers was like a process procedure or something she built to have her world work so she could do the thing. And I was like, tell me who doesn't benefit from that. I personally believe that we with ADHD need things to make sense. We need them to go, we need the one-dimensional A to B steps. We need to be able to see how to do it. We need to understand the full context. We need to literally the strategy behind whatever we're trying to do. We want that full picture. And when we get it, we do it. If that's what we create in the world, that helps everybody. Like there's not a person that doesn't benefit from that. And so, yes, it's an accommodation, but at the end of the day, I've worked for many employers who want people to help them write processes, which is not an easy thing for me to do. And I've had to do it as a tool and a skill for me. And it's a very valuable asset that, again, people without ADHD don't need because they just do what's important and they just take the steps that they don't understand. We just have to understand. And that's what I also feel like I get to bring to the world with ADHD is helping people understand, because that's what I've done. I've been on a journey of understanding so hyper-focusedly, like we know what we're capable of when we're hyper-focusing. That's the journey I've been on. And so now I want to invite other people to that. And I actually believe they've already been on that journey. Like I said, when I started, you have had this brain your entire life. You actually understand it. You just don't have the language for it yet. And so that's, again, the whole world of language that I live and speak and breathe, of shifting language, because once we get connected to the truth, which actually is authentic, then we're like, oh, my whole world works. And that's literally like the drum I beat. Authentic language, working through your words. Our words create our world. If they're inauthentic, we get derailed, hands down. So I hope there's something of value in that. And I hope to do this again, a little bit longer, I would think, than I started or intended to do, but I hope that it was of value and I'm not going to give up. I'm going to give up my standard expectation and ideal to have it be any other way. Thank you, Lucy, for being here. You are a gift, even from the UK too. I feel international. The first strategy call went international. Thank you for that. I look forward to the next one. I will be recording this post on YouTube so we can keep going this way and show up for the next one. And the intention is next Wednesday. So we'll see what happens. More to come, more to come. But you all know that. All right. Take care. You know where to find me in the Facebook group. Link is down below if you see this on YouTube. Take care.